Cats and Paul from the locker room. The Florida Panthers went on a magical run last postseason. Scrambled to get into the postseason. People thought they were going to, lose to the Bruins in 4. Hurts my soul that they didn't. Beat the Bruins. Beat the Maple Leafs. Beat the Hurricanes and go to the Stanley Cup final. They ended up losing to the Vegas Golden Knights. But the Florida Panthers had a terrific Stanley Cup run. Nobody can take that away from them. Will they be able to take the success they saw in the postseason and carry it into next season? Let's get right into it. So the Panthers currently $1 million over the cap. They'll be able to kind of maneuver, make something happen there. I'm not as worried regarding that. Let's go right into it. The Panthers' offense is relatively the same. You have Barkov, Verhaeghe, and Tkachuk. Great players, great first line. Barkov is a good two-way center who admittedly at times makes me want more from him. He's so talented. He's so big, strong. I feel like if he was just a bit more aggressive, we would see even more offensive production from Barkov. But Barkov is a great player. He really is. He's a fantastic hockey player. Verhaeghe, 42 goals last season, 31 points, 73 points in 81 games played. Good season. Really good left wing. One of the better left wings in the NHL. And the MVP of the forwards last postseason was Matthew Tkachuk. 79 games played, 40 goals, 69 assists for 109 points. That Huberdeau trade looks kind of foolish as more time goes on. But Tkachuk has definitely cemented himself as a superstar. You might not like the antics, might not like him being a little bit of a pest, but as a hockey fan, I love it. I love the personality. I love the shit talking. I think he's got a swagger to him. And he's one of the main reasons why I believe that the Panthers found themselves in that postseason run and found themselves late in the regular season. I mean, Keith Tkachuk, his father, had some interesting comments, and it seemed like since those comments made by his dad, they went on a run. So that first line's really good, and you have a superstar in Tkachuk. I'm not worried about the first line. Second line, Luostarinen, Bennett, and Reinhart. Good production. I liked what I saw from them in the postseason as well. Luostarinen, 43 points, 82 games played. Bennett, 40 points in 63 games played. Then you have Reinhart with 67 points in 82. Good production, good players, really good second line. Definitely an above-average second line, more towards the top end of the league. You're hoping that Bennett can play a full 82, and I think with a full 82, he'll probably be around like 50 or so points at the very least. But good second line, good compete level. Third line. For me, will Lundell take that next step? I liked it. Really good hustle in the postseason. 73 games last season. 12 goals, 21 assists for 33 points. He's only 21 years old. I think he's got a lot of good tools, good skater. I believe a little bit more finish is possible there. But he was a force in the playoffs. Maybe he's never a top line number one center. Maybe he's never that guy. But Lundell's only 21. Pretty good pedigree. Who knows? Maybe this guy can develop into a top 6 guy. He's only 21. I know I'm repeating that, but I have to kind of say yeah, exactly. This is the same guy who was taken 12th overall in the 2020 draft. Guy's got a lot of potential. And for me with the Panthers, it comes to their third and fourth line is how successful this team will be. They have good top 6. Will Lundell take a next step? Because if Lundell hits that next gear, let's say Lundell becomes around a 40-plus, 50, low 50s point producer. The Panthers have a plethora of depth scoring if that happens to be the case. Rodriguez, effective on the wing, 39 points, 69 games played. I'm going to butcher this name, but Desenko, I believe is how you pronounce that. He's a young guy. See how that pans out. And I know this is cap friendly. These aren't ideally the lines, but we're just going into the depth chart, seeing how it is. With a third line, really, if Lundell can take that next step, they're sitting pretty. And then the fourth line, Lomberg, hustle, heart and soul type guy. Lorentz, solid, big guy. With Eric Stahl not being re-signed, not coming back, can he fill that fourth line role? Yeah, I mean, he's a big body. He has some physical, I would say, attributes that would be somewhat similar to Stahl. Can he play a good two-way game? You're hoping a guy with 27 has a little bit more legs in him than Eric Stahl had. But, I think he could be very solid. And then Nick Cousins, I mean, for a fourth line guy, very solid. 9 goals, 18 assists for 27 points. That's really good production on that unit. Offensively, when I look at the Florida Panthers, pretty damn good. You have some superstars like Tkachuk. You have star players like Barkov or Hagee. I mean, you got guys that were put into different locations like Reinhart, Bennett, stuff like that really succeeded in Florida. And then you have a young guy like Lindell who's only 21 who should take the next step. I think this is definitely towards the top end of the league offensively. They're on above average at the very least, especially with all that star power. But for me, I just need to see how that third and fourth line comes along and kind of give me a better idea of how well they'll succeed. Now, going into the defense, and where is he? Yeah, okay. 2 injured right now. Aaron Ekblad, Brandon Montour. When I was watching Flying Fluffy Sports, I think he said Montour might be ready for the season. Ekblad might take a little bit of time. Some serious injuries. So I know I just want to note those two first before I talk to this D pair. Forsling, good defenseman. Mahura, he played solid. OEL, though, I do think 2.25 for him might be a bit much. I definitely don't think he's a second pairing defenseman, and I know some of this is out of whack due to Ekblad and Montour being there. I think Mikkola might be a better idea to slot him up. I think he's got a bit more legs. But OEL, Kulikov, solid defenseman here. Nothing going to blow your doors down. Mikkola, good. And Kurtstead can be okay. Absolutely. I think it's the health of Ekblad and Montour is how well this D-core will be. Ekblad, when healthy, is a very good defenseman, very good in his own end. Is he going to blow your doors down? Not necessarily. Montour is that phenomenal point-producing guy, but I do think Ekblad's a solid defenseman. I believe he's dealt with a lot of injury issues throughout his career, which I think is somewhat unfortunate. The defense right now, if this was their lineup, right, excluding Ekblad and Montour, it's average, kind of average to me at best. But with Ekblad and Montour, depending on how their health situations go, if Montour's ready to go and if Ekblad's ready to go, I mean, you're looking at a very good, very, very good D-core. Definitely above average because Ekblad is solid, and then Montour is an offensive juggernaut who is pretty decent in his own end as well. Let's get into the goaltending. Sergei Bobrovsky, the man went on a phenomenal run. Now, a guy that's no longer here that helped get them to the playoffs. Alex Lyon, he's now in Detroit, I think it is. So he's no longer going to be there, which kind of made sense. Spencer Knight is a guy that signed there for a couple more years. But Sergei Bobrovsky had a phenomenal postseason. His regular season was kind of meh. But once the lights turned on, got to the playoffs, he's one of the best goalies on the planet. Can Bobrovsky replicate that performance in the regular season? Now, obviously, you can't do it every single game. That's unrealistic. But if Bob can be around like a .915 save percentage goaltender, around that league average, and they'll be fine. I think Spencer Knight, while I think some Florida Panthers have noticed, are kind of a little bit annoyed with him. They think he can be much more. You see Devin Levi, what he's turned into for the Sabres, but Knight's still young. He's still only 22 years old. He had a lot of stuff going off the ice, apparently, and hopefully he's right. I think if Knight is mentally good, I think he can reach the heights of a goalie like Levi. Let's not forget, Levi was dealt because they thought Knight had a higher upside. I think that's still in him. He's still a young goaltender. And I think we tend to forget with young goalies that a lot of them don't hit their stride until their mid-20s. Knight has done respectable at the NHL level. I think having Bob there, while $10 million is a lot of cap, but he definitely earned it last postseason. I think that's a good guy to learn from. I know both contracts run out at the same time. Knight's an RFA at 2026. Bob's a UFA at 2026. I don't see them re-signing him unless he takes a way cheaper deal, which, I mean, hey, maybe he does. But Spencer Knight is the future in net for the Panthers. It might not be this season. He might be a backup. But if Knight and Bob, this is the best case scenario for the Panthers. If Knight and Bob can be both competent and even battling for that number one spot, and you can save Bob, you can give him around 40 games and keep him well rested, because I think he just got gassed against the Knights. He was making a ton of fantastic saves, but it was just a lot of wear and tear on his body. If you can split the games, have him well rested for the playoffs, and put yourself in a situation, I think the Panthers, while some people are disrespecting them and saying like, oh, it was just a fluke, this is a well-constructed roster. A lot of size, a lot of talent. Bobrovsky has proven he can be that number one superstar goaltender in the postseason just previously. Spencer Knight is a young goalie with a lot of upside. You have Brandon Montour, Ekblad, Forsling, Uhura. I think OEL is hopefully a third-pairing defenseman on this team, because if he's a third-pairing defenseman, that's perfect. That's good. Gets out of a toxic situation in Vancouver, goes into a situation where there's less expectations. But Mikola, I like what I saw from him when I saw him play from St. Louis, then went to the Rangers. And then, the defense is solid. Not just solid, very good. And then when you have superstars like Tkachuk on your team and Barkov, that I think is just a tier below that, I think you're going to be a good team. I think you have the potential to finish top three. At the very least, a wild card spot. I'm never counting out the Panthers after what just happened. I'm just not. I'm never going to disrespect Panthers teams with this current core. I liked what I saw. A lot of heart. Really battled. They've proven, like, when they get to the playoffs, they can raise their level of play. They can be the boogeyman that knocks down all these monstrous teams. Or, it'd be a better analogy would be they could be the David to a lot of people's Goliaths. So I think when I look at the Florida Panthers, where do I believe they'll finish? I mean, looking at the NHL standings last season, right? I'm going to switch it right over real quick. Where can they finish? You're like, okay, like let's see where things go. And while they changed the website for whatever reason. This kind of looks weird now. You had the Bruins, the Maple Leafs, and the Lightning. Top three in the Atlantic, right? Actually, switch it over here. Panthers finished fourth. Is Boston going to have that season they did last year? No, I'm a Bruins fan saying that. I'm not being a hater. Bruins, I could see slipping completely out of playoff contention depending on how things go. But I think the Panthers could be in the top three. Buffalo's got to prove to me that they can do it, like be successful throughout the season and not just in stretches. I think Buffalo's got a lot of upside. Ottawa's made additions. It's a very competitive division, arguably probably the most competitive in all of the NHL. But Florida has the roster to win a lot of these battles, win these head-to-heads. And just after that run, I'm going to give them a nod. If you had to make me force to make a decision, I would say the Florida Panthers are going to finish third in the Atlantic. And hey, doesn't matter where you finish. Doesn't matter where you rank. It's how you play in the playoffs and how the matchups go. But Florida's a very good team. I think getting a little bit disrespected, just saying it's just all flukes. It's nothing, that it never happened again. They got some players here, man. They got some damn good players on this roster, and I think the NHL and the NHL community as a whole, we need to start respecting the talent here. I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but Barkov, Tkachuk, Verhaeghe, that's your top line. Most teams would die to have that type of a top line. Verhaeghe's got a great shot. Barkov is a good two-way center with phenomenal playmaking with great hands. Tkachuk, like we all saw what he did. You see how injured he was in the postseason and the dude's still battling? You got to love the heart and soul of this team. I'm just saying. I'm not here for the Panther slander. I think they'll be doing far better than some people expect. But I'd like to know your thoughts down below in the comment section. How do you think the Florida Panthers do? Will they finish in the top 3? Will they finish in the wild card? Will they miss the playoffs altogether? Leave your thoughts down below. I just want to say a big thank you for watching all the way through. Helps out the channel tremendously. I'm Captain Paul. See you in the next one.